Is there a break in the Tupac murder after 27 years? I believe Chad Daybell is broke. I'll explain. Rex Heuermann is traumatized by his arrest. Imagine that. Now, the Illinois is going where others have gone before, hoping for a different result. We'll see how that works out. A former ABC News reporter is going to prison. Guess what for? And why murder for hire plots never work out. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and always hit that little bell so that you receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content. And remember, you can listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Just search Crime Talk with Scott Reich. Okay, let's go ahead and open the record for July 19th, 2023. A home in Nevada has had a search warrant executed in regards to the Tupac Shakur's 1996 murder probe, and the house is owned by the wife of a former Crips gang member, a guy that goes by the name of Keith D., who previously claimed to know who gunned down the rapper. Now, Dwayne Davis, this guy's like 60 years old, also known as Keith D., is married to Paula Clemens, who owns the house on Maple Shade Street that was raided and where the search warrant was executed on Monday night as part of an investigation as it relates to Tupac Shakur's murder. Now, for those who are not familiar with this, Shakur was 25 when he was killed just one block from the Las Vegas Strip in September of 1996 after leaving the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Plaza Hotel. His case has remained unsolved now for 27 years. Now, in 2018, while filming the 10-part Netflix docuseries Unsolved, the Tupac and Biggie murders, Keith D. claimed it was his own nephew, a guy by the name of Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, who pulled the trigger and said that he was in the car with him at that time. Now, video footage shows the moment a convoy of armored police vehicles rolled down the residential street on the outskirts of Las Vegas to the home where they sought computers, laptops, and articles about Tupac and his death. A neighbor who lives nearby on the same street where the warrant was served Monday night stated that they witnessed police arrive at the property with their guns drawn as they demanded occupants to come out of the home with their hands up. All the occupants apparently complied with the police orders, but it's unclear if any arrests were made or if anything was actually found during the execution of the search warrant. The Las Vegas Police Department would only confirm that a search warrant was served in Henderson, which is basically just south of Las Vegas there on the Strip. It's where the Raiders have their training facility. You got the Henderson Airport. It's right there. Nice little area. Anyway, they also did confirm that it was in regards to the ongoing Tupac Shakur homicide investigation, but they're going to have no further comment. So the police did also confirm that the warrant did involve Keith D., the former Crips gang member, whose wife is Paula Clemens, who is also the owner of the house. Now, Clemens also owned a home in Compton, California, noting that back in 1998, the LA County Sheriff's Department reportedly recovered a gun in the backyard of a Compton residence that belonged to the girlfriend of the known Crip gang member who was in Las Vegas the night of Shakur's murder. The case remains unsolved, like I said, for nearly 30 years, but evidence is now being presented to the Las Vegas grand jury. Wouldn't you love to see that one go to trial, ladies and gentlemen? West Coast versus East Coast, Biggie versus Tupac. Oh, man. There's a little twist, though. Investigators believe that the gunman is likely dead, and the current investigation could lead to answers about who else was in the car with the shooter when the shots were fired. Like I said, Shakur was gunned down in his black BMW, idling at a red light on Flamingo Road at Covell Lane on September 7th, 1996. It occurred about 11 p.m. The rapper, like I said, was 25, just left the Mike Tyson fight, and bam, next thing you know, he's dead. He was in the BMW with Suge Knight, the boss of his label, Death Row Records, when the assailant fired at the pair. Now, needless to say, Suge Knight, who's currently serving prison sentence for a beating/death, people, yeah, bad guy. If you've ever seen Straight Outta Compton or know anything about Suge Knight, not a good guy. Anyway, Tupac was hit 4 times, including once in the chest, and he was taken to the University Medical Center there in Nevada and died 6 days later. Now, in a 2-hour documentary back in 2017, those who were by the rapper's bedside as he was dying said the rapper indicated that he knew who the killer was. Tupac's murder remains unsolved, but there are several theories about who may be responsible. One theory is that the shooting was retaliation for a shooting 6 days earlier in which Tupac's associate, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, was killed. Another theory is that the shooting was the result of a feud between rival rappers on the East and West Coast, namely Biggie Smalls, who was killed in a drive-by the following year. Another theory is that the shooting was carried out by members of the Crips gang who were rival with Tupac's cohorts, the Bloods. Now, the murder of Tupac was an international story and obviously remains a source of fascination and speculation even today. Some even claim that the rapper is still alive. He's hanging out with Elvis. There's been countless books and documentaries about the case, and there's even a museum dedicated to Tupac in his hometown of New York City. Next on the docket, Chad Daybell. I think he's broke. He, through his attorney, Mr. Pryor, have asked for the production and preparation of the jury trial transcripts and all copies of exhibits from the State v. Vallow trial. Now, although since Chad Daybell has private counsel, normally he would be required to pay for the transcript himself. However, he's asking that if the government who is going to get a copy of the transcript, that, hey, I should not have to pay full price, and therefore they're requesting a full transcript of the trial of Lori Vallow. This has actually been set for a hearing tomorrow at 9:30 to see what he gets. Now, let me just tell you, I have said quite a while here, Mr. Pryor should probably just withdraw from Chad Daybell's case. One of the reasons why the case was continued and he was not tried with Lori Vallow was because he did not have the resources to do his mitigation as it relates to the death penalty. And I'm telling you, a death penalty case is a full-time job. You cannot work on anything else other than the death penalty case. I'm serious. It says ineffective written all over it. And let's face it, if he doesn't have the resources to get the transcript, which would basically be deemed necessary to be effective, to conduct an effective cross-examination of witnesses at trial, you just need to withdraw. You need to withdraw and say, let him be paid at state expense, let him go to the public defender's office, whatever needs to be done so that this can be an effective assistance of counsel as it relates to Chad Daybell. He's entitled to that. He deserves that under the United States Constitution. And I'm telling you, when you're trying to nickel and dime your private attorney to do a good job, it never turns out well. Just withdraw. Get paid at state expense. Do what you need to do. Remember, Mr. Pryor, your duty is always to the client, not whether you think you're going to become famous or a household name because of the case. Your duty is to the client. Rex Heuermann. Remember him? We talked about him last week. He's accused of being the Long Island serial killer. Well, according to his attorney, he was traumatized after his arrest for being the alleged Gilgo Beach murderer. Now, an attorney by the name of Michael Brown, who I guess is going to represent him, has told people as it relates to a news conference, I guess, that the Mr. Heuermann is a 59-year-old father of 2, and it distresses him when he met him to meet the man, and they entered pleas of not guilty at his arraignment on Friday. He stated that nothing struck me as unusual about him. The attorney described Heuermann as articulate, intelligent, and soft-spoken, and he said that the architect, it's alleged where he had some 300 guns stashed in his residence, and where he also allegedly read many articles about the killing spree and searched for brutal child pornography videos, according to the police. Now, like I said, the attorney noted that his client was being held under a suicide watch, which is quite normal. Everyone acts like that's always a big deal, but that's normal procedure the first couple of days you're in custody because they just figure everyone's going to freak out and die and do bad things to themselves. That's not the case. Now, the attorney for Heuermann dismissed the prosecution's case, which allegedly includes DNA matches and some calls on online searches and burner phones, as mere circumstantial evidence, as he referred to that. Well, let's not get too carried away. Attorneys always dismiss stuff early in the case. You should probably get the discovery. The best thing to say is, you know what? I haven't seen any discovery in the case, and we're not going to try our case in the court of public opinion. We're going to try it in a courtroom, so stand by. Instead, they dismiss stuff as, oh, it's no big deal. It's a big deal, okay? They got DNA. They got phone calls. I think the bigger story here should be more like the Delphi murders. Richard Allen puts himself at the scene, tells everybody he's there, just out strolling around, and his interview gets lost because of some bureaucrat that put it in the wrong file, literally. And then they discover it, 7 years later? Here they have all this information about the car, this DNA. DNA's been around for the last 20 years, and now somebody says, hey, we should probably go check this out when they do this task force. The bigger story is, why did the police not get to this sooner? Instead of thinking, what? I saw some story today where they said he lived 2.5 miles from where the house was for the Amityville horrors. Did that influence him? And I literally just are you kidding me? This is where we have come, right? Anyway, we'll see how things work out. The attorney in this particular case has his work cut out for him, and he knows it. And he's concerned about getting a fair trial, which he probably should be. Now, like I said, Mr. Heuermann's arrest is tied to the Gilgo 4 as it relates to 4 sex workers, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello, and Maureen Barnes. They were all found wrapped in burlap bags within days of each other back in 2010. The body of Bartholomew was first found along Ocean Parkway on December 11th, 2010, sparking fears that there was in fact a serial killer in the area. We'll see where it goes, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't look good, though. DNA is tough to work with. Just saying. All right, next on the docket, Illinois goes where others have failed, hoping for a different result. Will it be different? We'll have to wait and see. Illinois has become the first state in the nation to eliminate cash bail entirely, clearing the way for potentially dangerous criminals to be set free on the streets. Governor J.B. Pritzker, who would like to be president one day, celebrated the step, but needless to say, his critics are not as enthused. The chairman of the Republican Party says that this will significantly undermine public safety by releasing dangerous, violent criminals from custody at a time when police are under attack and Illinois families and crime victims already fear for their personal safety. Now, the law was passed by the legislature and signed by Governor Pritzker. Well, it had been blocked by a judge back in December, saying that it violated the state constitution. Several other states, including New Jersey, New York, and California, have taken steps to reduce the use of cash bail, in which defendants charged with certain offenses can pay money to secure their freedom until their trial begins. Now, they say that in Illinois, we can move forward with this historic reform and ensure pretrial detainment is determined by the danger an individual poses to the community instead of their ability to pay their way out of jail, according to Pritzker, who is a billionaire. Needless to say, critics of the cash bail system say that the system effectively creates a tiered justice system in which wealthy defendants remain free while poor arrestees spend months in jail. Proponents argue the bail ensures defendants show up in court and prevents dangerous criminals from returning to the streets while waiting for trial. Now, prosecutors in dozens of Illinois counties filed suit challenging the law, leading to the state Supreme Court ruling 5-2 on Tuesday, reversing the lower court's decision. They said in their opinion, quote, "Our Constitution creates a balance between the individual rights of defendants and the individual rights of crime victims." Supreme Court Justice Mary Ann Thies wrote for the majority. The Act's pretrial release provisions sets forth procedures commensurate with that balance. Under the law, judges cannot set any bail, but they can order defendants charged with certain serious crimes to be jailed until trial if prosecutors can show they pose a danger to the public or are likely to flee the state. Correct me if I'm wrong, That's always what the court took into consideration when setting a cash bail. If you were a low risk to the community and there was a low risk that you were going to flee the jurisdiction, you got a low bail. The higher the risk, the higher you were. It's just semantics, ladies and gentlemen, but more and more people are going to get out. And I've seen this. And don't get me wrong, I have done indigent defense for 25 years. And the bottom line is that sometimes the best thing people can do, I know it's going to be hard to believe, is to stay in jail, to get their act together, to stay sober. That is the best thing that can happen to them. I've said this before. You want to help? I have to tell parents all the time, you want to help your son or daughter? Don't. Let them stay in jail. Get clean. Get sober. That's the best thing you can do. Otherwise, you're just enabling them. We'll see if it works differently in Chicago, in Illinois, specifically, this dire state, or if it worked as well as it did in California, Oregon, New York, and Seattle. Just wait and see. Next, a former ABC reporter is going to prison. That's right, former ABC reporter James Gordon Meek is scheduled to change his plea to guilty later this week in a case accusing him of exchanging inappropriate photographs of young children and sending disturbing messages about his alleged perverted desires. Now, Mr. Meek, he's 53, and he's the former national security journalist, and he's scheduled to appear in a federal court in Virginia on Friday to change his plea. Now, if Mr. Meek had been convicted at trial, he would have faced a minimum of 5 years in prison and a maximum of 20 years behind bars with the Bureau of Prisons. But if he takes a plea deal, he's more than likely going to face a lighter sentence. But he's still going to prison. Now, the reporter was hit with charges in February, 10 months after the FBI raided his Arlington home and seized all of his electronics back in 2022. The investigation was triggered after a Dropbox alert was given to officials that inappropriate images were being stored on Mr. Meek's account. That's right. All those software companies monitor your stuff, and if you put the bad stuff there, they have a duty to go tell the police. Just telling you, all the pervs out there, they're coming for you, all right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just telling you, everyone has access to your stuff these days. Anyway, the feds discovered on Meek's phone 3 conversations, get this, expressing his desire to do terrible things to children. And the affidavit said that at the time of his arrest, that he had received and sent photos and videos of various inappropriate images involving children, including a message saying that, have you ever bleeped a toddler? He said it was amazing. Mr. Meek's not going to have a fun time in prison, ladies and gentlemen. He's one of those guys. Just saying. Now, Meek also allegedly talked about his fantasies of abducting, drugging, and doing terrible things sexually to girls as young as 12 years old. The feds say that Meek has also hoarded lots of inappropriate images and videos about his on his electronic devices, and he had conversations with minors on various chat platforms. What do I keep saying, ladies and gentlemen? Be careful. Be careful who your children are talking to on the internet. Be careful about whom you allow your children to be with. Please go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to crimetalksearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. Next on the docket, let me explain why murder for hire plots never work. Okay? They never work because there's always a confidential informant that goes and tells the police of your crazy plot. That's why they never work. Because you're going to somebody that's probably doing bad things already, and they know this is their golden ticket to get out of the trouble that they're in. Let me give you an example. On June 26th of 2023, a confidential source was approached by a subject known as Dylan, later identified as Dylan Scott Dees, while at a job site within Bexar County, Texas. Dees asked the confidential source if the confidential source would be able to find a third party who would carry out a murder for compensation. Dees told the confidential source that his ex-wife was attempting to move to Ohio with their daughter and that his former father-in-law was a problem for him. Dees stated his former father-in-law is a local police officer and that he was tired of this guy, and he was involved in law enforcement, in child custody issues with his ex-wife, and nothing is done, which he believes is due to his former father-in-law being a police officer. The confidential source ended this conversation by telling Dees he'd attempt to locate somebody willing to commit the homicide. After the conclusion of the conversation, the confidential source contacted the DEA. Task Force Officer Camacho was informed of what had taken place, along with providing Dees' cell phone number. Using law enforcement databases, DEA personnel identified Mr. Dees as the user and provider of that phone number. The confidential source provided a recent photo of Dylan to the task force officers, who compared the photo to Dees' Texas driver's license photo and confirmed that the photo was that of the individual. Using various public databases, Task Force Officer Camacho was able to locate the divorced child custody records that showing Dees and his ex-wife were in fact involved in the proceedings. That's called corroborating what the confidential source says. Further research by the task force officer located an emergency contact with Dees' ex-wife and gave her driver's license number as well. Task Force Officer Camacho was able to confirm Victim 1 is currently employed as a local law enforcement officer, and the task force officers met with Victim 1, who confirmed Dees is his former son-in-law, and his daughter is planning to move to Ohio, and her husband, along with her husband and daughter. During the evening of June 26, 2023, the confidential source called Mr. Dees, and during that conversation, which was recorded, in that call, the confidential source asked Dees if he was serious about doing that, stuff they talked about earlier, in which Dees responded, yeah. The confidential source told Dees he had a guy in the valley and can give him the phone number. Dees asked to talk to that person and think about it overnight. On June 27th, a meeting was set up between Dees and the confidential source. The confidential source provided covert audio-video recording equipment for the meet, which covert law enforcement officers monitored. Upon the arrival of the confidential source and Dees entered CS' vehicle where CS and Dees discussed the victim of Murder 1. Dees stated that he would pay the hitman with the equivalent of $27,000 in Bitcoin. Dees told the confidential source that using Bitcoin would make the payment untraceable. Dees requested the murder not take place around his daughter and that his daughter not see the murder. You got it, a little bit of mitigation there, right? A little bit of mitigation there at sentencing. Anyways, Mr. Dees asked if the murder could occur in Ohio, as he recently got off probation and feels as though all eyes are on him. Dees told the confidential source he would not want to meet the hitman. He only wanted to deal with the confidential source. Well, guess what? The confidential source and Dees again discussed why Dees wanted Victim 1 killed, and Dees explained that Victim 1 is the reason his ex-wife wants to move to Ohio, and accused his ex-wife of being the reason he was convicted of a theft charge for which he was on probation. The confidential source informed Mr. Dees that the hitman would require partial payment before the murder, to which Dees agreed. He offered to pay the confidential source's vehicle as compensation for setting him up with the hitman. Dees explained to the confidential source that he has a court hearing on July 13th for the court to decide if his ex-wife could be allowed to move to Ohio with their daughter. Dees stated if this court hearing goes in his favor, he does not want the murder to occur, but if the hearing does not go in his favor, he wants the murder to take place. The confidential source told Mr. Dees this is a capital offense, which Dees acknowledged. At the conclusion of the meeting, the task force officers took possession of the audio-video recording devices and provided that to the affiant. Needless to say, Mr. Dees has been arrested with charges of conspiring over state lines to have somebody killed. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is why murder for hire plots never work. The person in between always gets cold feet, and that's a good thing. And they go directly to the police, and the person gets set up. I mean, my goodness, Mr. D should have known. The only thing they didn't do was say, talk into this microphone here, please, a little louder, which is a good thing. We don't want people going around killing other people, okay? Let's make that clear. And next, finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Surprisingly, our dumb criminal of the day comes from Florida. I know. I don't know why, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm starting to notice a pattern. I don't know what it is. Anyway, a 58-year-old man in Boca Raton was arrested Friday night after uttering a puzzling phrase to several juveniles and then flashing his private parts to the group. The suspect, Brian Wood, was found by the Boca Raton Police Department about 2 hours later, and he was charged with lewd and lascivious behavior with a victim less than 16 years old. According to the police reports, he remains in the Palm Beach County Jail, being unable to post that $10,000 bond. If he was in Illinois, he'd be out doing it again by now. I guess Florida did something right. Anyway, the group of 4 kids apparently were walking. It's alleged then that Mr. Wood was hiding in the bushes wearing a black shirt with his shorts pulled down and his underwear up. As the juveniles were walking by, the suspect spoke out to the kids, quote, "You are not real, you are demons." Wood is reported then to have said that the kids, according to the kids, he then pulled down his underwear. The kids became frightened, ran to a local KFC restaurant nearby. Like I said, Mr. Wood was arrested, taken into custody. After being advised of his rights, Mr. Wood admitted to talking to the juveniles, but claimed he didn't pull his pants down. Mr. Wood, you're a dumb criminal of the day. Why are you in the woods with your shorts down anyway? Why are you jumping out, talking to kids, telling them they're not real? That's dumb. Or you're drunk, or you're high, or you got mental health issues, because people that usually don't have those issues don't jump out of the bushes with their shorts down. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show today. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.